Today is October 23rd, 2025, and the time is 6:30 p.m. I will now call the regular meeting of the ISD 191 Board of Education to order. Welcome to those of you who are in the audience here or watching online. Director Chester, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Director Chester.
Seconded.
Seconded by Director Mickelson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Our first report this evening will be a school report from William Byrne Elementary School. Presenting tonight's report will be Dr. Chris Belmont, Assistant Superintendent, Kamala Niffenegger, Interim Principal, and Brianna Benson, Multilingual Teacher. Welcome, everyone.
Good evening, Chair Werb, Directors, Superintendent Daniels. Good evening. I think I already said that. This is our second school report of the year. We brought you our largest high school last meeting, and now we're bringing you our largest elementary school and two fantastic leaders at William Byrne Elementary. So I'll hand it over to Interim Principal Niffenegger.
Thank you. Board Chair, Directors, and Superintendent Daniels, good evening. I'm excited to be here tonight as the Interim Principal of William Byrne Elementary to discuss our school's strategic approach to multilingual student achievement. With me tonight is one of our amazing staff members. I'll let her introduce herself.
My name is Brianna Benson, and I am an EL or ML teacher at William Byrne. I've been in the district for, I think this is year 22 in that position.
Awesome. So at William Byrne, we have a comprehensive set of systems in place to ensure that our multilingual learners receive both access and support within the school day. So in an elementary school, the master schedule drives instruction, and we intentionally build it to protect key instructional blocks. Across all grade levels, time is reserved for Tier 1 core instruction, as well as differentiated supports. This includes when or what I need time and small group instruction and reading to address Tier 2 and Tier 3 needs. Our multilingual teachers actively support students during all of these instructional blocks. Collaboration is a cornerstone of our work. In our professional learning communities or collaborative teams, grade level teachers and ML teachers jointly plan instruction, share best practices, and problem solve around student needs. Many of our ML teachers co-teach during Tier 1 blocks with long-standing partnerships that have strengthened instructional capacity over time. ML teachers also coordinate closely with our learning specialists and our special education teams to ensure students receiving multiple services do so without missing Tier 1 core instruction. All certified staff in every setting have been trained in the Catalyst approach strategies. These strategies intentionally reduce verbal clutter and incorporate visuals and nonverbals to increase clarity, which is beneficial for our multilingual students. While many of these systems and strategies are also present in other elementary schools, what elevates the work at William Byrne is our deep belief among staff in shared responsibility for the success of all of our learners. That shared mindset is a critical factor in ensuring that our multilingual students thrive. Each spring, our multilingual learners take the WIDA Access Assessment, which provides detailed information about student performance in the 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Our ML teachers triangulate those results with additional data like MCAs and FastBridge screening data to build a full picture of each student's strengths as well as areas for growth. Using this information, teachers develop individualized language goals for each student and monitor progress over time in elevation. Throughout the year, they engage in this continuous cycle of reviewing data, adjusting goals, and refining instruction. This data-driven, iterative process ensures that our multilingual students receive instruction that is targeted, timely, and aligned with both language development and academic progress. Now, Bree is going to walk through some of the success we've seen with our multilingual learners and what our data over time tells us about their progress.
All right. Research shows that it takes 4 to 7 years for students to become proficient in English. So we can expect many students who begin receiving English language services in kindergarten to meet our state's exiting criteria by the time they move on to middle school. National data shows that students who exit the EL program by 5th grade are better able to access rigorous coursework in the middle and high school levels and more likely to graduate high school. At William Byrne, we are noticing that 4th grade tends to be this magic year during which the largest chunk of our students achieve proficiency on the access test and are exited from our program. So I want to highlight a very special group of students who are currently in 5th grade, so last year's 4th graders. Last year we had 32 4th graders receiving EL services, and 15 of them passed the access test. 3 more were super close. Now, keep in mind, these are the kids that were kindergartners in 2020 to 2021. This, thing called COVID happened, right? So for them, 1st grade was really their first year of a normal education, in-person schooling where they were totally immersed in English, interacting with English-speaking peers, and receiving consistent small group English language services. Of the 15 who exited, 11 of them have been William Byrne students since either kindergarten or 1st grade, most of them kindergarten. We just all have a very special spot in our heart for these kids because of the progress that they made during a very unique time. I believe with my whole heart that this success story is indicative of the high-quality education students receive at William Byrne. We believe that every single staff member who interacts with kids is a language teacher, and we've worked hard to build a community where language development is supported in all areas of the school. All right, so now you're looking at 2 different sets of data. The first one is the percent of ELs who have met their growth target on the access test in the last 3 years. So you can see in 2023, 51% of our students met the target that's auto-generated by WIDA, the company that provides access testing for us. And then there was a beautiful jump in 2024 and 2025. To put it into perspective, the state average in this domain is 28%, and the district average is 29%. The next highest elementary school is 52% from 2025. So we have a lot of pride at William Byrne when we look at that data. The second one on the right is a little bit more exciting for me, because what this shows is that on average in 2025, our students made it 79% of the way toward their growth target. So even though 40% of our students didn't meet their target, they are making so much growth. And we know that English language learners take different amounts of time to become proficient, but if the progress is moving forward, then we're headed in the right direction and we're doing something right.
So our multilingual learners are intentionally embedded into all of our SIP goals. So we monitor their individual growth goals via FastBridge. Teachers are collaborating closely in their CTs to plan grade level instruction. And then we also focus on student attendance because we know them being in school every day matters, right? Every day counts. So in addition to those previously implemented supports mentioned earlier, we've invested in a 1.0 multilingual interventionist to provide additional literacy support for our ML students. Recognizing a gap in curriculum for newcomers, one of our ML teachers jumped at the opportunity to pilot a resource to address those needs this year. All of our ML staff are working hard to align their instruction and materials with our Tier 1 curriculum, Bridge to Reading, and Morphology. while always keeping in mind what we've learned through Carry All, the best practices and knowledge we've gained in alignment with the science of reading. Thank you.
So I want to thank both of our speakers. They, some things that really showed up for me when we're thinking about data-driven leadership is that William Byrne, whether it was Catalyst or multilingual instruction, they were interested in a certain model. They started to see progress, and they really were committed as an entire school to moving forward together. So that kind of spirit of going from interested to committed to all in to then doing data-driven refinement is, to me, one reason you're seeing some of the noticeable and really interesting, encouraging growth points for ML students there. So back to you, Chair Word.
Thank you. Do any board members have comments or questions? Director Mickelson.
I have one comment and one question. One, just thank you for being here. I always love the school reports. It's one of the best things about the board meetings, I think, during the year. The other question might be kind of slightly an odd question, maybe, but it has to do with COVID. I'm just kind of curious, with the experience of that remote learning and with COVID, how that either informed and kind of changed, if you learned anything from it that changed what you did once you got back in person, or if it just reinforced what you were, excited to get back to doing when it became in person. Just kind of wondering how that COVID experience kind of has informed what you've done since we're now back in person for 4 years.
teaching during COVID and teaching online was challenging in a lot of different ways, but from the English development standpoint, it was so much more difficult to get those authentic interactions with students. Teaching writing during COVID was near impossible. So many of my students didn't have a family member right there with them that could support them and walk them through the technology aspect. And so even trying to do interactive writing things through some of the different apps we had available, it just didn't always work. And so getting back into the classroom and having that FaceTime, that one-on-one, that immediate feedback was just so, it really cemented for me what I already knew was important about language learning, which is those authentic interactions and that comfortable, safe space to do so. And so, having them all back definitely, I don't know that it necessarily changed what I do, but it changed how I don't take it for granted.
Well, you could have reinforced, yes.
Yes.
Definitely is important. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation.
Director Anders. Sorry.
I don't usually keep this on. This is what. So I'm curious, so if there was one or two things that William Byrne is doing that isn't happening at other elementary schools that you could share with those schools, what are the key things that you would share?
One thing that all of our elementary schools are starting this year is implementation of Catalyst strategies.
Sure.
This is our 5th year implementing them.
Okay.
So we have a ton of time to really get to that deep level of implementation. And really what it does is reduce teachers' verbal clutter around behavior. So we're using our words for content related and relationship building. Because with our multilingual learners too, we need to, increase comprehensible input, right? So there's a million things they're thinking of. There's only so much working memory. So if our words are used for instruction and we're using nonverbals and visuals for directions and other things, it really helps them be able to focus on the content. And when you first start implementation, you're not going to see as much as when you go along through coaching. We've done a lot of coaching around Catalyst to make a deeper implementation in the classrooms. So I think that's one of the greatest impacts we've seen.
Can I add one more thing about the verbal
Absolutely.
clutter? Our English language learners are constantly trying to make meaning from the words that they're hearing. When teachers do a lot of self-talk, I'm oh man, I'm one of the most guilty of it. I can be teaching about verbs and, oh, where did I put that pencil? Da, 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 da. It's really a lot of work for multilingual kids to figure out, wait, I can ignore those words. Nope, wait, I need to listen to those words. And so by being really careful about how we use our spoken language really helps kids be able to focus and not zone out as much, because they're getting so tired trying to figure it all out.
Yep.
And Director Anderson, thanks for that question. I would just add to going to all 8 of our elementary schools that, well, first of all, and Director Buchanan and Director Oftedal know this data better than me, but we do have other schools that are hitting language proficiency targets like at a noticeably higher rate than the state average as well. But William Byrne's unique. I think some of it is that verbal clutter, how they're really intentional with using time. And then whether it's with Catalyst or ML instructional strategies, like ML kids at William Byrne are everybody's kids. So, and everybody's kids are multilingual students. It doesn't really matter. So I think that mindset and that culture is really pervasive. And as a district, when you have as many as 50% of our students with language needs, how we go is how they go, right? So that's what I've noticed. It's a little bit of the culture of the school too.
Thanks.
Director Alt.
Thank you, Chair Werb. Couple comments, couple questions. So you got me thinking about exiting the students in 4th grade, right? And what a great opportunity that is for them. And moving into middle school, having them fully exited from ML supports, accessing the rigorous programs. And I know later tonight we're going to be hearing a report about our students accessing rigorous programs. It would be really lovely to be able to hear tracking of our ML students that have been exited from the program at whatever stage and how they fared throughout middle school into high school with accessing that rigorous program, and whether exiting ML earlier is making a difference in their academic career or not, you know. So that was one thought. And then also at the same time in elementary, knowing that there are so many parts moving for our kiddos, and language is so critical for them to access learning. Gifted and talented. Can you talk to us about our gifted and talented ML learners? How are we helping them, you know, kind of access that as well?
Well, I'm not the expert about how our students are selected for those small groups. However, I can quite confidently say that we do have representation of multilingual students in those programs. But again, I'm going to let them speak to how, do you know how those are selected? I'm not really sure.
Not in great detail to accurately say, but I would love to get back to you about that.
Please, yeah.
Okay. Yes, we have an amazing advanced learning specialist in our building.
We do.
And she would be the expert, and I don't want to misspeak for her.
Yes. But I do know that is something district-wide that has been discussed. We have so many incredibly bright, talented, smart students in our program. So.
And the only reason I ask is because I know that we're doing great things, and there's been a lot of progress made over the years, and I know it's probably an unfair question tonight, so please.
No worries. But I think traditionally, I know where you're coming from, because I think traditionally there was this negative connotation with being an ESL student. And I can remember early in my career when teachers would say something like, oh, I don't think they're going to qualify. They're really smart. And it's taken a long time throughout the course of my career to address that with teachers and say intelligence and language level are two very, very different things. Mm-hmm. And so as a district, I do agree that it is important to make sure that we are addressing those kids that are that should be there, and that they're getting those services that they deserve. So,
Thank you.
Just a couple questions as well, but thank you very much for your presentation. It's truly appreciated, and just love to hear about all the work we're doing for our language learners, English language learners. So with the different systems in place, is there any way of measuring like which one of those is like more successful than the others, or do we just really feel like it's just a combination of all of those together that really creates the most success? Or how do you evaluate what, if there needs to be additional systems added to that, or are we just confident that those systems are what's working, or those are what is best right now?
I think it's so hard to isolate, right? When we have so many things that support our students, which one is the most effective? I mean, that's a whole, right? There's data experts out there that can probably do that better than we can. But that's part of our work, is constantly looking at our systems and analyzing them through our school improvement process of looking at data, disaggregating data, and trying to figure out additional ways to support students.
and I think that's part of that dive into the data is we discover that there is a need for some of our, especially upper grade multilingual students, to get additional support in reading. And yes, we have the most incredible learning specialist team out there. I mean, they collaborate with us a lot. They agree wholeheartedly that just because they're ML doesn't mean that they shouldn't also get the reading intervention support. However, that's three people with limited group sizes. Meanwhile, some of our group sizes have become very large, 7, 8, sometimes even more students. And so to meet those really specific needs and to fill those gaps in, that's why we decided to try out this ML interventionist position, because then she can kind of dive in with some of those students that are missing basic, phonemic awareness and phonics skills, and help them catch up in a much smaller group setting.
Yeah, and Chair Orb, I would just add in addition to what they shared, is that we have new systems, relatively new systems like Elevation, that people are in like pre-implementation or early implementation with. We have the Science of Reading training that we went through last year. We're still trying to work through that. And then we have existing systems that maybe we get lower on with fidelity and quality and consistency. So constantly checking in on how we are doing within the systems is so critical to across all of our schools.
And so kind of going into that, because you were speaking about the interventionist and that being a newer position. So I am curious to see how that will kind of come into play in the future with identifying those that are in need of more support. Will that interventionist be working? I mean, will it look the same as how a normal interventionist would work? It's not any different, really. It's just that they're focusing on an English language learner.
Yep, and so she'll take her expertise as a licensed ML teacher, combined with her background in teaching literacy, collaborating with our learning specialists and with the ML team to really meet the needs of the students. And she has a special knack then for pulling in some of that vocabulary and oral language support along with the reading, whereas her focus is more on reading.
Sounds like she's doing some data coaching and grouping too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting to see how that might affect our data in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Up next, we will receive the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness and Achievement and Integration Progress Report from Amina Aftadal, Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment, and Isis Buchanan, Director of Educational Equity. Welcome.
Good evening, Chair Werb, Dr. Daniels, members of the board. Thank you. I feel like I'm echoing. Thank you for the opportunity to share this year's annual report for the 24-25 Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness and the Achievement and Integration Progress Report. This evening, we will provide a look back at the goals and results from the previous year for the state of Minnesota's Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness, formerly the World's Best Workforce areas, and the District Achievement and Integration Plan goals. In the past, with this 3-year Achievement and Integration Plan, we have tried to integrate the two together, and so some of our goals overlap, and that's some of the things that you'll see tonight. Director Buchanan will be able to share the strategies and activities that are supported by the District Achievement and Integration Plan. The report combines the progress of the two programs, Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness, and the State Achievement and Integration. First, the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness. The state guide for all school districts was updated in the 2023 legislative session to address the redundancy in the reading goals with the READ Act legislation. So the reading goal has been removed, shifted from the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness list, and will be presented with our January report on district literacy. The State Achievement and Integration Program still holds the same intentions, and currently the 24-25 school year is the final, or the 25-26 school year is the final year of our 3-year plan. And Director Buchanan will be able to speak more directly to these goals and the district plan later in the presentation. As we reflect on the goals and the results of the past year, one area that serves as an early indicator of student success is that kindergarten readiness for literacy and reading. Incoming kindergartners are assessed individually each fall to determine the level of readiness for kindergarten in many areas, and one area is the development of language and early literacy skills. We want to re-emphasize that our kindergartners are whole children, and this is only one single indicator for around literacy and does not represent the whole child. It was our goal that 50% of incoming kindergartners demonstrate those skills upon entry to kindergarten. But there was a flat result from the prior year of 42% of students meeting that readiness benchmark. So taking a look at that 42% you'll see over the last 3 years, we do have kindergartners coming to us from many different paths, and so part of what we are looking at is what is happening in our community with our kindergartners to prepare them for that kindergarten readiness. And to also remember is that this is an assessment that students take the first couple of days of kindergarten, and so it really is a generalized entry into recognizing what are those literacy awareness skills for our students. The achievement integration goals look at specific groups of students who have been historically underserved and see the impact of district programming has on their achievement. The results of BIPOC students overall did not meet our goal of 41% meeting benchmark. It came in at 37%. Latino students, the goal was 20%. We saw it at 13%. And our Native and Indigenous students' goal was 50% with a result of 40%. Keeping in mind that the group size for our Native Indigenous students was 5. Sorry, it's 5. And because they do come to us from many experiences, there is only one area within the school's sphere of influence, and that is that our evidence is that our BIPOC students, especially our Latino children who participate in the 191 preschool programming, either in VPK or other preschool programming, do perform significantly better than their peers who did not participate in 191 preschool. We know that for our Latino students, that score came in at about 62% of students who participated in 191 preschool met those kindergarten fall benchmarks versus the 13% overall. The ongoing alignment of literacy instruction with our VPK and preschool programs will continue to strengthen the growth in those particular numbers. The next goal in the CACR is to close the performance gap between students of color and white students. In reading, the district continued to see that expanding gap with a lower performance in both student groups overall. We can also take a look at the trend for the ACT composite score as one indicator, only one, of college and career readiness. There was little change in the district average composite score. We hope to see an increase moving us toward our goal of 20, but the result was an 18.8. The 2025 results for the state have not yet been received, but the last 2 years we have seen a decline across the state. However, this score is one that the building leadership team at Burnsville High School continues to look at closely, and they have developed a series of action strategies for improvement in these scores overall as part of their school improvement plan. This includes a greater alignment of their content and outcomes in the different content areas, as well as multiple content area teachers embedding practice items and their format into their courses. Enrollment in rigorous coursework is an ongoing project for the district. According to and in alignment with our achievement integration plan, we are looking to reduce the disproportionate enrollment in those rigorous courses. Rigorous courses are defined for this report as those courses eligible to earn college credit. Our goal is to reduce that disparity to 8%, but we did see the increase to a 14.6% in that disparity between our students of color and our white students enrolled in college credit-bearing courses. One of the final areas for the CACR is that all students graduate. That is the state's goal. For us, our goal is that Burnsville High School graduation rate for 4 years would be at 88%. The result this year was a decrease of 80%. It is a decrease of 2% for the district overall and for Burnsville High School. However, Burnsville Alternative School did see the greatest increase with a 3% increase for their 4-year graduation rates, moving them even closer to the state minimum of 67%. That is tremendous growth over the last 3 years for that particular site. Virtual Academy experienced the highest rate of decrease from the previous year, which continues to be a focus for Principal Ron and her staff this year, bringing some of the strategies that she's applied to BOZ to the Virtual Academy as well. When examining the 4-year graduation rates under the Achievement and Integration Plan, we do focus on our BIPOC learners at BHS and our Latino and Hispanic students in the class of 2024 did experience one of the greatest decreases of 7% in their 4-year graduation rate. This continues to reflect ongoing disparities with many of our Spanish-speaking students. We did see the percentages for Native and Indigenous students continue to fluctuate. However, that is based on the small group size with 16 Native and Indigenous students district-wide. Using the data from the CACR and Achievement Integration and multiple other data sources, the programming and curriculum instruction and professional development that is currently in progress. We do plan to utilize the Scheduled Student Performance and Achievement, or SPA, reports this year to provide you with a deeper look as a board into the comprehensive programming and strategies being implemented in each of these areas and their impacts. Each SPA report will focus on specific measures from the board's strategic dashboard. In January we'll present a literacy update and do a deeper dive, not only at the overall results, but some of the results by grade level and by ethnicity and race. Addressing Disparities report will be scheduled for March, and we'll be sharing information on the strategic activities to address some of the disparities in academic performance. The College and Career Readiness Report will be presented in April. We'll take a deeper dive in our graduation support activities and programming, and the rigorous course enrollment updates and some of the strategies that are in progress to promote ongoing enrollment into the rigorous courses, and including our ACT results.
So now I'll add some actual things we do to get some of those results. And so Chair Ward, Superintendent Dr. Daniels, and members of the board, as Director Oftedal shared, we are in year 3 of our fiscal year 23 to 26 Achievement and Integration Plan. And districts participating in this plan have to submit the plan to MDE every 3 years, and Lakeville Area Schools is our current partner district. And then we submit an annual report with the information that we're sharing today as our progress. In fiscal year 2025, we had about $2.1 million in funding from the Achievement Integration revenue. And so strategies that are part of our Achievement Integration Plan, I'll just talk through some of those. And so the first one is AVID, or Advancement Via Individual Determination. And so for that program, it has a couple components. There's the elective course AVID, and there's also school-wide AVID things that we do at the secondary level. And so the graduation rate of our students who are in the AVID elective is 100%. So the students who are using that and assessing that course are able to meet all the criteria that they need to accelerate and graduate. Some of the key pieces of things that we're doing in this area include professional development that is linked to making sure that some things that we do in the secondary schools focus on common strategies for instruction, our school systems for leadership, and just the culture of learning. We've also had an expansion of our AVID elective sections at secondary sites. So even in our middle schools, we have the AVID elective courses, and about 600 students across all the secondaries participate in AVID. And then we do use AVID school-wide for our Tier 1 instruction. So each secondary school has a focus on things that they're doing as a whole entire school community to support students at meeting the expectations for rigorous content and high student engagement. We also have increased the rate for our AVID tutors. That's a big part of that component, is having tutors to work with students who are in the AVID elective course. And so that we're attracting more tutors to help our students, and so that's been a positive thing. We also have schools that are recognized as AVID demonstration schools, and those schools are the top 5% of AVID schools nationwide. And so Nicollet Middle Schools continues to be a national demonstration school, and Eagle Ridge was validated as a national demonstration school just this past May. As a district, we also walk through and take visits at our AVID sites, and really trying to keep our focus on student engagement and the level of rigor that is in our academic program. And so this helps focus on ensuring that learning experiences support students being engaged, challenged, and develops their ownership of their learning through increasingly complex levels of understanding. Strategy 2 connects to this family and community partnerships. And so in our district, we have our social workers, and we also have cultural liaisons. And the funding pays for, those staff to work with us. And so the connection to school, community, and the state resources has some different areas that we're focusing on. And so those include strengthening that connection from home to school and improving our social emotional skills with students. Also supporting our parents and caregivers at some of those things that they can do to help prepare for their children for kindergarten. And so getting parents to be in our voluntary PK program, as well as some of our other early childhood family education programming, is another way that we're focusing on that. And we're also looking at our student high school graduation requirements and encouraging the participation in rigorous courses at the secondary level. And so the strategy 3, our Indigenous student and family engagement component, we do receive guidance from our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, and they prioritize, give us some ideas about things that we really should prioritize. And so staff development and curriculum enhancements have been some of those things that we are working to be more inclusive with. We have monthly meetings with our Indigenous families to provide resources, support, and advocacy. And some of this is part of the APAC, but then there's also drum and dance, and there's also American Indian education programming that happens, as well as our craft nights. And so one of the things, like the student in the picture on this slide, is that some of our students across from elementary, middle to high school participated in the ACES National Conference. And it's a national conference that just happened to be in the Twin Cities. And so they had one day that was dedicated for students, and it was a STEM day for Native American youth. And so you can see that there's some elementary, middle, and high school students from our district in the picture. And it really was a great experience for those students to explore medical technology, coding, robots, and more. And I think they had great fun doing that. Some of the parents even wish they were able to join them. We are also still part of the South Metro Indian Education Committee, and so we still do those South of the River collaborations, and we'll have our annual powwow. And as I mentioned, the drum and dance courses are things that are part of that. And then also over this past year, moving into this year, we're starting to expand our work with the Dreamcatcher program. And so we're starting to shift some of that work. So like this fall, we had our cultural liaisons, social workers, and school psychologists, and some of our elementary student systems specialists all participate in that training. And it's really geared towards ensuring that we're thinking about culture and the social economic status, trauma, and all these pieces, and bringing that into place when we're having conversations about the needs of students. And so even today I had a meeting with our cultural liaisons, and one of the big things that they're like pushing is like, how do we get even more people to be in the know of the perspectives that we could bring to the meetings with us? And I just told them how it's like a progression of training. Like we started with a small group, and now that group is getting a little bigger, and then now we have people trained at all of our sites who work with the teams of students who may be having some concerns, so that we're bringing in all those pieces as we're looking at things. And then strategy 4 focuses on our culturally proficient school systems area, and that really pulls together a lot of the strategies from AVID to English learner supports, as well as culturally responsive practices to ensure that we are having high academic standards that are aligned to our state benchmarks. And so some of the things that we're doing there is really continuing with our training about culturally responsive instruction. We onboard all of our new staff. We embed these practices in different professional development that we have throughout the year. And then we also align some of our feedback with our multi-tiered systems of support to make sure that we're always looking at our data to look at areas that we are doing well and also those areas that we could improve. And the strategies are transitioning from being just isolated initiatives to really trying to embed them into our system and to measure the impact. We also continue to create aligned practices that are rooted in building our sense of collective efficacy to support students, families, and staff. So while many of our core strategies in this Achievement and Integration Plan remain consistent, the application is deepening from where we started years ago, and that we really are sharpening things and trying to target specific subgroup supports and have stronger accountability structures and expanded collaboration. And the refinements are designed to translate ongoing efforts into improved outcomes for our students. And then finally, we're starting to look forward in future planning. And so for fiscal year 27 through 29, Bloomington Public Schools had reached out to us this past spring, showing some interest in wanting to partner with our district. And so in some conversations and learning more about their school district, we learned that we do have several areas of alignment that kind of fell out of place with our partnership with Lakeville. And so we're really starting to meet with them to identify what are some of those collective things that we could partner with together. And then also meeting with the Minnesota Department of Ed staff, because in November, they will be putting out the information about the process for the 27-29 integration plan timelines. And there'll be a lot of our parent advisory groups and teams here in our district that'll be helping contribute to what some of those goals and action items will be as we move forward. So that's the end of our report. So are there any questions?
Board members have any comments or questions? Director Alt.
Thank you. Yeah, I could have all kinds of comments, but I will try to be brief. So the opportunity with Bloomington, is that a definite thing, or is that something that we're simply exploring?
Right now, the plan is to partner with, like Lakeville knows that we're making a transition. And so as we wrap up our plan with them, it's almost like a triad, where most districts have similar types of goals around graduation or in early childhood readiness. And so we'll be partnering with Lakeville. Like I met with their equity staff person as well. And so even as we think about the goals that we currently had and how those will play out in this next go round, like we are working together, like with Bloomington as they're creating, as well as, working with Lakeville as we, wrap up the partnership that we had with them.
Okay. And then, as you said, families will have kind of input in shaping what that partnership might look like.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess one cautionary note, I know, Amina, you had very clearly made the comment, and I can't say that I disagree, that, the data that we're looking at is but one benchmark of our students. And at the same time, we are a school system, and these are the benchmarks to which we are held accountable. And our mission is each student, future ready, community strong. So for me, it doesn't matter what the cohort might be. Year to year, the cohort may be 20 students, it may be 40 students. We are responsible for each of those 20 students. We are responsible for each of those 40 students. So whether all of them graduate or some of them graduate, I appreciate that they may be well supported and happy, and that's a wonderful thing. And they need to graduate. And this may sound cranky. This is one board member caring very deeply about our students. These strategies I have heard, in A&I, I've heard about our strategies, the AVID strategies, the family engagement, our dear liaisons. They serve a very dear purpose, and they support our students. And there are other things that need to be in place. And Dr. Daniels, you need to let us know what you see, what else you need from us.
Absolutely.
Because they are serving a purpose, and there's something else that needs to happen. So what you need from us, you need to let us know, because we need to be that shining star.
That's right. I understand my charge, and I will certainly let you all know. To add to what Director Alt has shared, my team knows that I have been putting pressure applying pressure around how we are supporting at the classroom level. You can have all the strategies in the world, but if we are not in classrooms supporting instruction, expecting our students to perform at high levels, it doesn't matter. So my team understands what my expectations are. Principals understand what the expectations are. Dr. Belmont has already been out modeling, showing them the way, and we will continue to do that. I'm starting listening sessions again next week at Ron next Thursday. So I will be hearing from them, and I'm continuing to collect information throughout the fall, and we will also begin a strategic planning process in which we will put the playbook in place. But I understand the charge. I understand the urgency. I want my team to understand the urgency, and that includes principals and teachers as well. So we have work to do. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Director Saxey? Yes.
No problem. Thank you, Chair Werb. Just interested in, you had referenced learnings from the alternative high school that could be applied to Virtual Academy. Just a little bit more detail on what that would be, because I think the trend line is another year like we're going, and the alternative high school is going to have a higher graduation rate than the Virtual Academy with the back-to-back drops we've seen there.
Principal Ron has, I believe, the Virtual Academy has not always been under the supervision of Principal Ron. And so I think last year was a real learning year for Principal Ron, understanding the workings, and I know that she shared with the board. But she's also very, very committed to, as Dr. Daniels said, looking at what's happening at each classroom, and really has instituted some very clear accountability and data review procedures with her teachers. So she meets with teachers regularly for them to look at their classroom, at their student classroom data, and putting into place action plans for specific groups of students at that teacher level. And teachers then meeting with their students every other week to judge their progress, to measure their progress toward graduation, measure their progress toward their grades, all of those particular kinds of things, and put those in, and they are now embedded as part of that cultural at the alternative high school, and they are seeing that growth and that change and that progress for students on that upward trend for four-year graduation rate, which is, again, I know I say it a lot, really impressive when you know that the students who come to you are already deficient in their grades or in their graduation credits, and so really accelerating that growth. And so she's used some of those strategies, those database decision strategies, those accountability strategies, those advisory relationship strategies of building those deep relationships with students and their teacher on a regular basis, and that student goal setting strategies of students being deeply involved with their own progress and measuring that progress on a regular basis, and really getting to know her staff and building her staff at the Virtual Academy. She has invested a huge amount of time in hiring really great staff for her Virtual Academy and people who are dedicated to that online learning, and then beginning to look at the attendance strategies as well, because that becomes a big piece of the Virtual Academy, and that unique asynchronous kind of format that they use, and bringing those same accountability strategies, those same relationship building strategies to the Virtual Academy that she has brought to BOZ.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple of things. You were talking toward the beginning with the kindergarten kind of testing and rates and things, and about the participation in PPK and VPK and things, and just other exposures to preschool type programs, and the difference that they can make. Just kind of curious as far as if we've identified certain barriers to additional participation, if it's transportation or cost or just our capacity to take students, or I guess, how is it, if they're so successful, how can we increase the participation? Is it getting the word out there that there are these programs? What can help to give those students that chance?
Right. In some cases, it is just the awareness barrier that there are opportunities, and those can be low to no cost opportunities for our families. I know I personally have had multiple calls and conversations with families who were simply not aware of the opportunity to access VPK at zero to low cost. And so we need to just continue to promote that and make that available. And I think the connecting with our families through our cultural liaisons, because oftentimes language barriers can be there. I think that we provide transportation through the Achievement and Integration Program for our VPK students. And I think that we can continue to explore what might be keeping folks from accessing our program. We do have spaces, and we have, lots of really talented folks. Making it site-based is also been a great move. Having that at each of the sites so that families can begin to access it at the same site where the student will go to kindergarten has been a really powerful strategy for our students as well.
One last thing is just with Avid, I don't know, I guess maybe Avid's kind of near and dear to my heart, seeing as I have someone who is very close relative who is an Avid tutor. So hear a lot about what goes on in those Avid classes and things at the high school. And so obviously he's involved in the Avid elective. At some point, maybe during a middle school presentation or something, I'd be very interested in knowing a little bit more about how some of those Avid concepts and skills are being integrated into the other, and how it's being implemented at like the middle schools and in just regular kind of instruction. Just hearing about how things with goal setting and time management and some of the different things that I've heard about that they're a part of the Avid kind of coursework and programs and what they're doing on like Mondays and Tuesdays versus Thursdays kind of thing is I'm like, yeah, I mean, those are fantastic skills for every student, for every working adult, for, everyone. And it would be kind of interesting to hear how those kinds of concepts are being taught. But yeah, it's a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just had questions about the rigorous coursework enrollment. I know that that's something that Dr. Daniels has worked on in the past, so I'm wondering how if there's been any conversations about how we can increase enrollment in rigorous coursework.
Actually, Dr. Belmont, a few of us, we were at the high school yesterday meeting with Dr. Funston about pathways and who's accessing those rigorous coursework courses and how do we change the trajectory. That was a small conversation within a larger conversation about pathways. And I did share with administration some strategies that I employed as the principal of both of my high schools to change that trajectory. I will be engaged and involved along with Dr. Belmont at the high school this year. We know that all begins with the registration process. So I want to know the registration process and be an integral part of that. So we are making sure we are identifying FABINs who have not identified themselves. But that's the reality. Mm-hmm. They have not identified themselves as worthy of capable of being in those spaces. And so how are we identifying those students? And so how are we marketing those classes, marketing those opportunities, Fabian? And how are we inviting students into those spaces? And so Dr. Belmont and I will be working with them. We had the conversation yesterday with a meeting within a meeting, talking a little bit about that. And so I will be engaged in that process.
Good, mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's all I had to say, but thank you very much for the presentation. Our next agenda item is to hear a financial audit report from Tyler Denny, Director of Finance, and Nancy Schultzenberg, CPA Partner, Government Audit from Creative Planning. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Werb, Dr. Daniels, members of the board. Bergen KDV recently completed the audit of the district's finances for fiscal year 24-25. So I will let Nancy from Bergen KDV present the results.
Good evening, Chair Werb, Dr. Daniels, and members of the board. Thank you for giving me some time to go over this. I know it won't be as engaging as what you just heard about education, but I'll do my best to keep it brief and summarized. So I want to talk about all of the communications that we issue as part of the audit, because that's really the most important thing for you all to hear. And starting with the independent auditor's report. And if you do want to read this in its entirety, it is in the front of that annual comprehensive financial report, 3 pages long. But in summary, we're issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is an indication that they are fairly presented in all material respects based on the results of our audit. So that is a clean opinion, is another terminology for it, and the best that we as auditors can offer. In addition to that letter, we have several other letters. And the first one is our report in accordance with government auditing standards. These standards are required by Minnesota state statute, and they require us as auditors to look at things a little bit more in depth than the generally accepted standards. So we look at internal control, we gain an understanding enough to plan our audit and assess risk, and then we report any findings. We had no internal control findings. We also look at significant compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants, and based on that work, we noted no non-compliance. So clean report when it comes to those government auditing standards. And then the next report, which we cannot issue yet, is our report in accordance with the uniform guidance or the federal funding. So right now, the 2025 OMB compliance supplement has not yet been issued. So we completed our work based on the draft that is out there, and we will wait till we get that final word, and then we'll re-look at what we did and make sure it's all still good and submit that report. As it stands right now, we tested 2 programs and we had no findings, either internal control or compliance related. So hopefully that will be the case, and I do believe it will. And then our last official letter is our report in accordance with Minnesota state statute. So we look at 7 broad categories of legal compliance as the items are requested by the Office of the State Auditor. And we complete a checklist that they provide to us on those specific things. And based on the completion, we had no non-compliance noted there either. So really unusual for school districts in Minnesota, but no written findings for this year as we're looking at things right now today. So congratulations on all of you and the finance team at the district. And then we have a separate document titled the communication letter, and there are several sections to that as well. The first one is going to be required communication. So these are all the things that our standards say we need to tell all of you as the governing body for the district. So it would be our tool if we had anything significant that we uncovered, anything unusual, if we had any significant adjustments, any of that would all be there. Happy to say that none of that strays from our standard language. The financial analysis I will cover this evening, and then in the back of that document there's a little light reading. There's a legislative update from the last session, and then also some new GASB standards that will be implemented in the next couple of years. Moving then to the financial information, starting out with a little bit of history on that general education formula allowance. That's still your largest funding source. So taking a look at the minimal increases that you've received over the last 10 years, you did have 4% in 2024, back down to 2% for this past year, and now operating in a 2.7% for 2026. So we take that formula allowance and multiply that by the students that you serve. So we have several charts and graphs that look at those students. And we start with your residents. And these aren't the students that you get paid on or the students that you serve, but these are the students that live within your boundaries. So that number did increase in 2025, going from 10,194 up to 10,258. And you had some fluctuations in the grade levels. So when we look at the chart in the graphical format, secondary on top there, you did have a little bit of a decrease, but pretty consistent year over year. A little bit of an increase in the elementary, which is the middle category, and then a very small change in the kindergarten and other. So nothing too significant there. And you can see over the 5 years, very stable population. And then we take those students and weight them by grade level. So 1.0 for everyone with 1.2 for those secondary students, a little bit higher. And then we factor in the open enrollment effects, and that has a big impact on your district. So you can see the residents on the top there, a little bit of an increase on that weighted basis. The pupil unit gain did go up this year, so you had more students coming from elsewhere, but unfortunately the pupil unit loss increased by a greater rate. So overall, your adjusted pupil units, that number that you serve and that number that you get paid that general education aid, didn't change much at all, dropped by 1 student, so very, very stable. And when we look at the overall, high-level graphical format, you can see slight trending down over the 5 years with stable between 2024 and 2025. Moving then to some actual dollar amounts, what you have here is a chart that shows you your general fund sources of revenue for each of the last 5 years and the categories that those monies came in from. When we look at 2025, you saw an overall decrease of about 1.7% or 2.8 million. And when we look at the graph, it's a little bit easier to see where those changes came because there were some definite fluctuations in the category. Even though that was the overall decrease, there were some larger decreases and increases. So if you look at the top there, that's the other category. The biggest component of the other category, it's going to be the local things, donations, those types of things, interest income, but mostly federal. So you'll see a big drop, $8.3 million drop between 2024 and 2025. And you can see the 3 high years that you had with 22, 23, 24 with those COVID funds. So those ESSER dollars fell off for 2025, and that's the reason for that large decrease. In the middle, your largest source, 68% of your total revenues is state sources, and that did increase. So there was an increase in that formula allowance with your stable enrollment. You did see that. And then special education, you have increase in expenditures, a little bit of an increase in the allocation from the state, but overall that revenue increased as well. Some smaller items, the READ Act, some of those other literacy things coming into play there as well. And then on the bottom is your local property taxes. So a little bit of a jump there, up about 1.8 million with an increase in the general fund levy for the year, but pretty consistent with last year. The next chart takes a look at your budget to actual results. So if we look at the very bottom line there, you can see your original budget had anticipated a $3.4 million decrease in your fund balance. That was modified, anticipating a $2.5 million increase, and then you did outperform that budget. And when we look at the far right, that's your variance column. So about a third of the way down, you'll see your total revenues were over budget by about 1.67 million. That's 1%. So really very close when you're looking at the size of the budget that you're working with. Most of that came in the other local and county revenues with a conservative budget for those things like investment income that do fluctuate year to year. It's hard to know when you put the budget together, what's the market going to do? So we see that. The other categories very, very close to the anticipated amounts. And then expenditures, even closer, those are under budget 0.3%. So almost spot on in total. There are a couple categories that had some fluctuations. Special education was over budget with higher payments to education agencies, just with your increasing needs. And then offsetting that, the pupil support services was under budget due to some open positions. So again, overall a 0.3% variance in your expenditures. So your fund balance did increase by 5.2 million. When we look at expenditures, we're providing you 2 pie charts that show you where you're spending your money. So overall expenditures were up about 6.5% or 9.7 million. So a lot larger increase there than even the decrease in your overall revenues. So a bit of a shift in the general fund. Most of that came in the area of salaries and benefits, which is what you would expect when most of your expenditures are salaries and benefits for your employees. When we look at your percentages, those are very consistent year over year, which does allow for easier budgeting when you're spending consistently. Your direct instructional categories were 62.8% in 2025, up from 61.5% in 2024. So again, very consistent spending. And then we have some charts and graphs that look at your revenues and your expenditures per student and compare those to statewide averages. So that's what you're seeing here. For the chart, we have all funds, and if you look at 2024, the last year that we have comparisons, you can see that your district is above statewide averages. For general fund, food service, and community service funds, you are below for debt service. And you didn't have any current building construction going on, so that's a 0. And that has been the pattern for the last 4 years. When we look at 2025, you'll see a bit of a decrease in the general fund, and that has to do with the decrease in your revenues and your stable enrollment. And we have that information in graphical format for the general fund revenues as well, just to highlight the variances, and you can see consistently over the state average for revenues. Similar for the expenditures, you have been above state averages, which makes sense. You're spending the money that you're receiving. And you do have an increase in the expenditure per student just based on that increase in your expenditures. And again, that stable enrollment. And similar graph here, so you can see how it looks very, very much consistent with the revenues above state averages. High-level look at your financial position for the general fund, and you can see that these are moving in a pretty consistent pattern. Both your cash and investments increased and your fund balance increased for the year. And the gap between those is going to be things like salaries payable, receivables from the state and federal government for some of your programming. And then we have a really high-level look at the general fund, showing you all of the stuff we talked about and adding in the fund balance categories. So you can see on the top there, the decrease in your revenues in the general fund, the increase in expenditures, that overall increase in fund balance. And when we look at all the categories, there are some fluctuations just based on where you're at with spending, things like long-term facility maintenance, operating capital, medical assistance, all of those things. But I think the key for you is going to be that unassigned line that sits at $41.689 million at the end of the year. It did increase about 4.9, which is a positive to see, and it sits at 26.2% of your expenditures based on total expenditures for fiscal 25. Any questions on the general fund at all? Yes.
Just wanted to clarify. The gap is based predominantly on open positions. Am I understanding you correctly?
In the pupil support, maybe you can speak to a little more detail on that, Tyler.
Yeah, it would be positions that we budgeted for that didn't get filled throughout the year or got filled later in the year than after when we budgeted them.
Okay. And that is, would you say it's fair that that's where the unassigned fund balance was increased?
I would say that the reason for the unassigned increase is we really looked at making sure we spent the restricted funds first. And so then it was the increase in like investment earnings that would really hit the bottom line over budget, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
And that is in accordance with your policy to spend those restricted funds first if they are available.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure. All right, then just two more charts taking a look at your special revenue funds, starting with food service. You did have an increase in your revenues and also a very large increase in expenditures. Expenditures up with food costs rising and then also some equipment purchases. Ending the year at a very healthy fund balance, something that you'll have to continue to look at to spend down based on state requirements for a maximum in that fund. And then your community service fund, and this fund seems to be operating very appropriately. Revenues exceeding expenditures in each of the 5 years. Up in both categories with additional programming, additional salaries and benefits, transportation costs, those types of things. And when we look at the bottom of this chart, those are all the components that are required to be segregated by the state of Minnesota. It's a positive to see those all in the black. That's not something that we experience when we do this for other schools. So those programs are intended to cover costs, and they are doing just that. And that's everything that I have. So happy to take any questions.
Are there any comments or questions from board members? Director Mickelson.
As someone who does tax instead of audit, I'm very impressed you do audit. So I'm just kind of curious in terms of your process in scoping, and when you're coming in and kind of deciding what's in scope, what materiality you're looking at, just kind of interested in getting the concept of.
Sure. So we meet as a team before we start the audit, before we get anything from Tyler, to kind of come up with what should be our plan. And then we take a look at the internal controls that are in place. We gain that understanding, and we look for areas where there could be a potential for risk. We have a couple of risks that are standardly required, one of them being management override of controls. So you may have the very best controls, but if there's a management override of them, fraud can happen. We also have to look at revenue recognition. That's required by our standards as well. So we recalculate the state and federal aids. We take a look at your property taxes. So those are standards. And then as part of audit standards as well, we have to have an element of unpredictability. So what could we do? Do we do a deeper dive into your payroll this year? Do we do a closer look at your journal entries? Things like bank reconciliations, EFTs, and we have to rotate those things. So we have some standard things that we do, and very good controls are in place. It's kind of a rotation. So we do that. We come up with a time budget, and then we get the trial balance from Tyler, and we take a look at significant variances. So did something change more than we would have expected it to, based on what we know of the district and prior year financial statements? And we go from there.
Thank you. Kind of what I expected, and yes, governmental accounting. GASB changes.
Right? And I don't know, they can't seem to stop with the changes.
Dr. Alt. Thank you. Is there any recommendation for how, and this might be a pie in the sky question, but is there any way that we might tighten it up a little bit so that we have less swing? Or, I really appreciate that we always end up in this place where we have more revenue left over and, expenditures, come in less than expected. Always a good spot, Tyler, and I appreciate that you bring us there. That's lovely. Is there any way to make it a little less, a little tighter than that?
I think it's really complicated, especially in a district of this size.
Yeah.
If you're a small district and you have 100 employees, you can calculate what your salaries are going to be, and you can divide it up by program where they're teaching or spending their time. When you have as many as you do, it's a little bit more global. And then on the revenue side of things, pretty hard to predict. Special education, it's an overall statewide allocation.
Yep.
So depending upon what all the students in the entire state need, you may or may not get what you think you're going to get. We haven't seen significant proration in a lot of years, but that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it as low as 87%. So when you're putting the budget together, I think the caution would be to be conservative so you aren't getting any closer and going the other way. But it is a complicated process, and to get as close as you all are, I presented yesterday and the expenditure variance was 19.6%. So 0.3.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty close look and a probably pretty detailed analysis, I would think.
And with the changes that the legislature brings forward, I fully expected that you would say that. So, to try to plan too far in advance expenditures, I think would be foolhardy. So, Again, thank you, Tyler. I figured that was probably going to be the answer. So
Sure.
continuing on the path that we're on, recognizing that predicting revenues and wanting to protect our unassigned fund balance really does make the most sense. So
And if you look at that picture and you look at where you were 5 years ago, that was a bit scary.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now time to receive reports from board members regarding board committees, appointments, and school assignments. Would anyone like to start things off?
Sure. The legislative committee did not meet this month, but will be meeting next month because we're still awaiting the release of MSBA's legislative agenda platform along and AMSD's. So that's legislative. 917 met on October 7th, and we got to meet the second cohort of the iTrack program, which is in which EAs or paras can then be in an apprentice program with on-the-job training to get their teacher's license. And so that was very exciting to hear from that new cohort, and then realizing the first cohort will be graduating in May. So that's really exciting.
And then just today, Dr. Daniels and I were at the 917 board retreat, in which we heard from Dr. Frank Herman, who oversees the CTE program and decals at 917, and the ability to want to be a benefit or partner with the member districts and and providing offerings of ways to provide other certifications or anything to benefit our students in terms of a CTA pathway. We also heard a little bit more about the ongoing merger with Dakota Tech and Inver Hills and their interest in having conversations of how they integrate or somehow flow career tech from the secondary us to them, to the workforce. And so I think it was a beginning conversation that really needs to flow a little more. And then we were at the Minnesota Humanities Center, and they've been a great partner with 917, and they unveiled some really great curriculum for social studies that they want to present to all of the district members. So more to come.
Okay, thank you. Policy or negotiations? Or?
Yep, we have both. Policy met this Tuesday, the 21st, and policies will be coming forward at our next regular meeting. And we met with BEA negotiators last night. And I have to admit that all along in this process, I have appreciated the collaborative nature of the BEA team and its willingness to share their why behind any given item. Similarly, last night, we appreciated the team's approach. It was a heads and pencils down proposition last night. No common ground was reached, despite everyone's best efforts, and respecting teachers young and old, as well as appreciating the tenuous environment at large in which 191 finds itself as a whole. And that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the reports that we have. So now we will move to the business portion of the board meeting, starting with the consent agenda. Although board action is required, it is generally unnecessary to hold discussion on these items. In the event a board member wishes to discuss an item, that item will be moved for separate consideration. Do board members wish to remove any items from the consent items? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Director Saxey.
Second.
Seconded by Director Anderson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Up first, under new business, we are being asked to provide preliminary approval for a youth services trip to the Dominican Republic. Dr. Chris Belmont, Assistant Superintendent, and Courtney Jackson Flowback, Youth Services and Credit Recovery Coordinator and Trip Organizer, will be representing tonight's recommendation. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent Daniels, members of the board. Ms. Jackson Flowback is unexpectedly unable to make it this evening, but she did share some really good notes that it's going to help me out as I share about the requesting preliminary approval for the youth services field trip to Dominican Republic. This is the second iteration, I believe, of this trip, at least in my tenure with this role. So I'm going to pull up the slideshow. She also left me with a very nice slideshow that I can show you. So she wanted to make sure you knew that the International Youth Service trip to the Dominican Republic allows our student travelers to engage with local youth and within the community, which is different from what they know. They will work to provide access to education as well as working with concepts such as youth development and generational poverty. Learning these skills provides a true lesson for our student travelers as they work physically and mentally during our 8-day program. Some even choose to work toward their youth service credit. The general format for our 8 days is to work in the morning with youth in the Dominican Republic, spend the afternoon immersed in cultural activities, and at night debrief and reflect, connecting the day's work and relevant global issues. Students will have the last day of our trip to participate in sightseeing and taking in all that the Dominican Republic has to offer. For 2027, the intended dates of this trip, the youth service program will be collaborating with the Travel Club. This collaboration will provide options for students and families to find the best fit for their student traveler. In addition, we'll be partnering on fundraising efforts, reducing the expenses for families. By partnering together with fundraising with the Travel Club, there is less competition and likely more profit. We will also have monthly meetings, some youth service meetings only, such as lessons on language communication, and others we will partner with the Travel Club to establish a community. For fundraising plans, you can just kind of see some of the array of things that the team has in mind if they get that preliminary approval. We continue to coach and encourage our groups, our teams, to do service-based fundraising whenever possible. EF Tours is the management company that we're working with for this trip. It's nearly our exclusive partner at this point for our international trips. And then a quote from a 10th grade student traveler that attended the last youth service trip. I enjoyed the bonds we created with the people over there. I was really able to connect with so many of them from the very beginning and have even stayed in touch with a few. The country is beautiful and the culture is so unique. This was a trip that I definitely would love to go on again. So with that being said, I'm seeking that the Board of Education approve the preliminary application for an international field trip for the youth services to the Dominican Republic from March 23rd through March 30th in the year 2027. Back to you, Chair.
Is there a motion to provide preliminary approval for this trip to the Dominican Republic?
So moved.
Moved by Director Alt,
Second.
seconded by Director Saxey. Is there any discussion?
Just one comment.
Yes, Director Alt.
This kind of travel just really offers a really great opportunity to learn in the world's classroom. So I think it's just wonderful.
Thank you, Director Alt.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Our next item is to consider preliminary approval for the Travel Club's field trip to Budapest, Vienna, and Prague. Presenting the recommendation for this trip will be Dr. Chris Belmont, Assistant Superintendent, and Alicia Vonderhaar, Teacher and Travel Club Advisor, and Gloria Weber, Teacher and Travel Club Chaperone. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. So, said partners in fundraising, as mentioned in the previous report, are here to talk about a trip to Budapest, Vienna, and Prague. So we have two incredible ELA teachers from Burnsville High School.
Thank you so much. Thank you, board members, Dr. Daniels, Director Werb. We're so excited to be back here again. This is our third time seeing you all. I'm Alicia Vonderhaar. I am an ELA teacher at Burnsville High School, and I'm very fortunate to head up our travel club. I have Gloria Weber with us. She is our chaperone. One of our chaperones, we usually also have Mr. Landon Parkin, is also our third. And so we are here to talk about our proposed trip for Spring Break 2027 to Budapest, Vienna, and Prague. As always, because I was told the last time you guys like an update on what's going on, we are in full swing fundraising for our 2026 Switzerland-Italy trip that will be happening at the very beginning of July this summer. We have monthly meetings to develop community. All of our students are now at the high school because we did have some in 8th grade sign up, and now they're freshmen and finding their way around, and it's been wonderful. And it's been a great way for us to help to build all of those bridges in community from the youngest to our oldest kids who are going to be traveling. We also have some fun themed nights planned for the students, and what we're really excited about is being able to collaborate with Ms. Floback on that, which I will get to in a little bit. So talking about the trip in particular, the goal is to visit 3 Eastern European cities. The focus is always on culture, language, and history. Those are the 3 main things that we always cover when we go on these trips. We want students, as you have so put it, to learn within the school that is the world. Our students are able to experience all of these locations in a very safe and controlled manner, but also we get to see some amazing things, and they get to experience what it means to be out into the world as an independent individual. So we would fly into Budapest, spend 2 days there, travel to Vienna, where we spend a day, and then we end in Prague before traveling home. This is in conjunction with EF Tours, which they are our partner. They have nearly 60 years of experience handling this. Education First Tours is what the EF stands for. Why we decided to go with a spring break trip in conjunction, like in addition to what we have been doing, which is our summer trips, is because we wanted something that would be less expensive for our students. We want it to be more accessible for our kids. It's a little bit shorter. Those 3 days goes a long way though. And we want to reduce the financial burden on our families, and it allow more students to travel, because that's, in the end, that's what we want them to do. So, let's see here. You've seen our laundry list of fundraising plans, which we have enlisted the vast majority of them thus far, though we have more in store. We do baking groceries at Cub. Our community is incredibly supportive and generous and have treated us so well. And it's a great way for the kids to get that experience and being out in the community, explaining what they're doing and why they care about it. And it's a great way to build that community as well. Restaurant nights, candy bar sales, butter braid sales. There is a scholarship that's merit and needs-based available through EF Tours. And of course, we're always open to more fundraising ideas from students and families. I'm always happy to coordinate whatever they would like to do. One of the biggest things through EF Tours that we really like is that they have a fundraising page for each student. And it's a great way for family members, friends, to support a student who wants to travel. And then, of course, we come and see you guys so far in advance because the smaller monthly payments make it much more accessible for our families. All right, so we did get to hear Dr. Belmont explain a little bit about why we've decided to work with our youth service group. We always want what's best for our students and families, and we feel like combining our efforts are going to only make that, what we have built, better. We want to give them options for travel as well as helping them to work together to fundraise. It helps to reduce expenses for families and students, as well as building a community. We love to find those best fit travel choices for our students and families because some want to do service and get that credit, and some want to go and learn about history and culture as well. We just like to have options for our kids. All right. So this is a quote that was from a parent of the 2024 student trip, which was to London and Paris in 2024. I've seen a level of confidence in my kid since she's come back that I have never seen in her before. Thank you. So that's a picture of us outside of the Tower of London. Yep, that was the Tower of London with our prior group. So yeah, that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Ms. von der Haar, Ms. Weber. So just formally recommending that the Board of Education approve the preliminary application for this international field trip for the travel club to Budapest, Vienna, and Prague. Anticipated dates March 14th through the 20th, 2027.
Is there a motion to approve the travel club's international field trip request?
So moved. Oh, go ahead.
Moved by Director Chester, seconded by Director Anderson. Is there any discussion? Oh, yes, Baven.
I'm actually going on this trip, and I just want to say what a wonderful opportunity for high schoolers to go abroad in such culture-filled cities and hanging out with your friends as well as teachers that you really enjoy. So, just really excited.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all very much.
Yep, thank you. We have one more preliminary approval request for an extended field trip for the Burnsville baseball team's trip to Scottsdale, Arizona. Presenting this trip will be once again Dr. Chris Belmont, along with Justin Bannett, teacher and coach, and Kelly Mitch, Booster Club president.
Okay. The whole team. Field trip Thursday just keeps rolling along. I think I assure you they're not going to try to play a game in here tonight. Chair Werb, Superintendent Daniels, members of the board, here with Booster Club President Kelly Mitch and teacher and coach Justin Bannett to talk about a preliminary approval for the Burnsville baseball team's trip to Scottsdale, Arizona. Just some clarification for the board that they approve both international, that you all approve both international trips as well as any trips where students are missing in excess of 3 school days.
All right, thank you, Dr. Belmont, and good evening, Chair Werb, Dr. Daniels, Superintendent Daniels, and the rest of the school board. I am Justin Bannett, head coach of the Burnsville baseball team, and I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about a potential field trip to Arizona this spring. As mentioned, speaking with me this evening is Kelly Mitch, parent of a former player as well as a current player. Kelly also serves as the president of the BHS Baseball Booster Club. In 2005, former head coach Mick Scholl began taking a group of baseball players and coaches on a spring trip. Since that time, the baseball team has traveled to Arizona for 18 seasons, only missing 2020 and 2021 due to COVID-related cancellations. Throughout those 18 trips to Arizona, the baseball program has formed relationships with members of the hotel staff, members of the Paradise Valley High School community, including the Paradise Valley athletic director and multiple coaching staffs at PVHS. Each trip, members of the Burnsville coaching staff are approached by hotel employees, hotel guests, restaurant employees, even Paradise Valley community to share how impressed they are with our players' behavior. This trip teaches our players more than just a game of baseball. We emphasize the importance of respect, responsibility, hard work, and grit in life, as well as baseball. If approved, a group of around 28 players and 6 coaches would travel to Scottsdale, Arizona on Sunday, March 22nd of 2026. We would participate in team meetings and team building activities on Sunday. Monday through Friday, we'd practice each morning for about 4 hours before returning to our hotel for a team lunch and then mandatory study sessions. We would then return to Paradise Valley High School in the evening for an additional 3-hour practice session or scrimmage. These practices allow us to install all of our team strategies in 1 week on a full-size baseball field outside that wouldn't be possible without this trip. This team would travel back to Minnesota on Friday, March 27th. I mentioned earlier this trip is about more than just the game of baseball. Sam Schliemann, class of 2018 graduate, current assistant coach, and former player, shared that this trip is a great learning experience for the athletes to figure out how to rely on their peers rather than parents. These players spend a lot of time together on this trip. They learn how to coexist with each other, and they learn how to work through any differences with each other. When we leave for Arizona, we're 28 individuals, but when we return to Minnesota, we return as one team. I'd like to turn it over to Kelly Mitch, who has had 2 sons that have been on this trip for a combined 5 seasons. Kelly?
Thank you, Coach. Chair Werb, Dr. Daniels, members of the board, thank you for having us tonight. When planning a trip for 28 players and 6 coaches, there are many important details to consider. Chief among them is how to fund an experience of this size. The anticipated out-of-pocket cost for each player is approximately $775, in addition to personal shopping, spending money for meals and snacks. Over the past 4 years, the Booster Club has made a conscious effort to keep this cost steady, despite rising expenses. While some programs in the metro area require families to cover the entire cost of a trip similar to this, we are fortunate to have a strong foundation built by the families and players who came before us. Through their efforts, we've established many traditions of fundraising that we continue to do to make this trip possible. Our semi-annual water softener salt serves as a dual fundraiser, which I'm sure many of you have probably heard or seen over the last few years. In fact, there is salt waiting at Nicollet for us to start to distribute starting tomorrow. Players, that dual part is not only to help fund the program, but the players behind me and their teammates have an opportunity to also fund what we call their personal player accounts. They also have an opportunity to work bagging groceries at Cub Foods, which is also specifically just for their player accounts. Many families have been able to reduce significantly or even eliminate the out-of-pocket cost for this trip simply by those efforts. In addition, players will participate in what we call a Team Up fundraiser campaign to gather donations to support the program. And we host community events, fundraisers such as a bingo night and local restaurant nights throughout the year. Most importantly, the Booster Club is committed to ensuring their financial burdens never prevent a player from participating. If a player earns a spot on the team and is asked to go to Arizona, we do everything we can to make sure it happens. My oldest son was fortunate to attend the Arizona trip 4 times. Over the years, I've heard countless stories from him and his teammates about how special the experience was. I thought I understood how truly magical the trip was until last year when I was able to see it for myself for the first time. At every lunch, scrimmage, and game, I witnessed something remarkable. I saw walls come down, trust being built, and confidence growing in each and every player. I watched acquaintances become teammates and teammates become friends. The transformation takes place during this trip is something truly special to see. The hotel, as Coach Bannett had mentioned, where the team has stayed for more than 15 years, often comments on how respectful and well-behaved our players are, welcoming us back year after year, and in fact have said that they will have us stay at the same cost that we've paid over the last couple years. Their continued partnership is a reflection of the character and integrity our players demonstrate both on and off the field. Not only do these players work hard to raise funds necessary to attend the Arizona trip, but they also dedicate their time and energy serving the community, both locally and beyond. They volunteer Burnsville Athletic Club clinics and Blaze camps, helping to mentor and inspire young players. For many years, they've also partnered with the BHS softball team to participate in Feed My Starving Children. And last year, they started to help bag the brain power in a backpack for our students here in the district. These young men not only are talented athletes, as you will see when you are more than welcome to come to any of our spring games, but also outstanding representatives of Burnsville High School. They demonstrate leadership, generosity, and pride in everything they do on the field, in the classroom, and in the community. A few years ago, we stood here in front of many of you asking for permission to take this ferry trip. In preparation to that, I had reached out to numerous past players and family members to ask them what the trip meant to them, what their favorite memories were, and whether there was anything else they wanted to share. The responses then, and those who I've continued to hear leading up to tonight, have all echoed the same themes. They speak of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, of how, as Coach Bannett had said, indeed a group of 28 individuals do come back as a unified team. And above all of them stated their lifelong friendships that they've made. There's a reason so many former players return to the program, eager to give back and to help coach. The Arizona trip is more than just baseball. It's an experience that strengthens our community and shapes who these players become both on and off the field. I would like to conclude by stating participation in the Arizona trip is regarded as a privileged and a cherished tradition with the Burnsville baseball program. Each year, players eagerly anticipate the opportunity to represent Burnsville in Arizona Inspired by the stories and experiences shared by those who have gone before them, the trip embodies the values of teamwork, commitment, and excellence that define our program, and its impact is evident each season when seniors reflect at our annual end-of-the-year banquet, often naming Arizona as their most treasured Burnsville baseball as a whole, and this is even when they go back to T-ball as their favorite experience of Burnsville baseball. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I'd like to recognize that the timing of our trip request is not ideal. We understand that students would be missing 5 days of school if the trip is approved. However, I am confident that our student athletes will be able to complete the coursework either while on the trip in our study sessions or shortly after we return. During the season, we regularly check students' grades to make sure they are meeting the expectations of being student athletes. We have had to have conversations in prior years with players about making up work, and have had players lose playing time when those expectations aren't met. As a Burnsville High School teacher and coach, I emphasize the importance of players being leaders in the classroom and in the community. And I'm also proud to say that the Burnsville baseball high school team has won the All-State All-Academic Team Award for the gold or silver standard for the past 10 years, 10 plus years, with last year being the gold standard, with a cumulative team GPA of 3.59. If this trip is approved, players will attend mandatory study sessions each day. The study sessions would be 1 to 2 hours in length, and players will be organized into study groups which are supervised by one of the members of the coaching staff. Players will also be required to notify teachers in advance of their absence and collect work before the trip if possible. Once players register for baseball in the spring and tryouts begin, Coach Ryan King, who's a BHS Phi Ed teacher, as well as JV baseball head coach, and here this evening, puts together a spreadsheet that we use for grade checks. After the first grade check, we speak with players personally about their academics and help them make a plan for improving their grades. These grade checks will take place before the trip, after the trip, and take place during the season, throughout the season, to ensure our players remain eligible and on track for graduation. If any players fall behind academically or need to meet with teachers after school upon our return, we will support the student athletes 100%. The high school baseball season begins March 9th, 2026, with a week of arm care and conditioning practices. Full practices and tryouts begin the following week, the week of March 16th, which also happens to be ISD 191 spring break this next spring. The week of March 23rd is when initial teams have been formed and are getting ready for the start of the competitive season. That happens to be the week where we are proposing the trip to Arizona. This week also reflects a timeline similar to prior years when going to Arizona. We are proposing this week because it is not feasible to go during the ISD 191 spring break this year before teams have been formed. And the following week of March 30th represents the end of the third quarter. And it's in the best interest of the student athletes not to pull them out of school the last week of a quarter. I would like to close with a statement from our former head coach, Mick Scholl. Our expectations are high for each player that gets the opportunity to go on this trip. In the 16 plus years of going to Arizona, our players have kept up with their academics, as evidenced by the multiple team All-State academic awards we have received. Also, it is a big deal that we get asked back each year by the Paradise Valley High School community. They essentially turn over the keys to us because they know we appreciate and will respect their facilities. We teach about life, teamwork, ethics, and character through the game of baseball. Our classroom for these skills are the baseball field, the hotel, and the restaurants that we visit, as well as the mountain that we hike as a team. We become a family of sorts that represents Burnsville baseball. I would again like to thank Chair Werb, Superintendent Daniels, and the other members of the school board for giving us the opportunity to share how much this trip means to Burnsville baseball and our student athletes. Thank you for considering our trip request.
Thank you, Coach. One small caveat I'd share with the board is connecting with AD Kleiner, who couldn't be here, our athletic director Kleiner, who couldn't be here tonight. We are grateful for the systems that Coach Bannett and his staff have for grade checks. We are going to expect, Athletic Director Kleiner is going to expect that no student takes the field back in Minnesota if their grades are not at or a higher level than they were preceding the trip. Back to you, Chair. Oh, I'll read the recommendation that the Board of There's a charm tonight. That the Board of Education approved the preliminary application for an extended field trip for the Burnsville baseball team's trip to Scottsdale, Arizona. Anticipated dates March 22nd through the 27th, 2026. Thank you, Chair.
Is there a motion to approve the baseball field trip?
So moved.
Moved by Director Saxey,
Second.
second by Director Chester. Is there any discussion? Director Saxey.
Thanks, Chair Werb. Just two real quick comments. First, as the parent of a golfer, don't feel bad about missing 5 days of school. You've earned it. And second, just the show up, behind you for this. Certainly not necessary to gain approval or support for a trip like this, but it certainly says a lot of terrific things about the program.
Thank you.
Director Alt.
Just clarification that the whole team is going on the trip, is that correct? Or only selected members?
It would be ideally the varsity and junior varsity teams.
Okay. And Director Kleiner will be following standard policy and regulation in terms of those with appropriate grade levels to be able to participate.
State High School League.
State High School League, yeah, okay. And per the caveat of Dr. Daniels, in terms of what the study sessions will look like for both adults and students, you'll be vetting that as well, Dr. Daniels. Okay, awesome, thank you.
I just wanted to say I appreciate the thoroughness of your presentation. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I'm really impressed with when you were talking about the cost and just how well you have worked to keep the cost down and everything and all of the fundraising that you guys do to make this accessible to everybody and really making sure everyone who qualifies is able to go. I think that's really impressive. And wow, I'm really jealous. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you.
March. It's fabulous.
Okay. Sorry, thank you. No, I just appreciate the thoroughness of your presentation and the detail, and very impressed by the dedication of the players to show up tonight and be supportive of this motion. I did have a question, Kelly, about the cost. I think you'd mentioned something about it being $700, but in here it said $900.
So I can go ahead and answer that. Okay. So as a booster club, we usually give, at the very beginning of our pre-season parent-player meeting, a range of $775 up to $900. Since then, we have actually had a booster club meeting, and we've gotten some of the cost of the hotel, which we were not actually anticipating them to continue to keep the price as they have last year. We anticipated an increase. Plus, we've added a few extra fundraisers. So we do everything that we can. We're always trying to look for new ways of fundraising, not only to keep the community more involved, but then also to keep those behind me also involved and excited to do fundraisers. So,
all right. Well, I appreciate that, you have all this put together so well. This is a great opportunity for our players. So I appreciate that we can keep going and keep doing this every year for them. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you very much.
Yep. In our final item under new business, we are being asked to approve the Minnesota State High School League Foundation Grant A. The recommendation will be presented by Dr. Chris Belmont, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Daniels, members of the board. This is an annual ask from Athletic Director Kleiner, who couldn't be here this evening, around the Minnesota State High School League Foundation Grant. So we are seeking approval this evening. Founded in 2007, the MSHSL Minnesota State High School League Foundation is a nonprofit association serving both public and private schools, created to complement the Minnesota State High School League by providing support for Minnesota's high school youth to participate in athletics and the fine arts. The MSHSL Foundation's goals are to promote the growth of high school students through participation in valuable extracurricular activities. This foundation Form A grant awards funding to schools to help offset revenue lost from educational benefit discounts for participation fees. Therefore, it's my recommendation that the Board of Education approve the ISD 191 application to the Minnesota State High School League MSHSL Foundation Grant A to offset student activity fees.
Is there a motion to approve this grant?
So moved.
Moved by Director Alt,
Seconded.
second by Director Mickelson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Up next on our agenda is a work session to discuss updates to the superintendent evaluation tool. Before starting this work session, I move that we take a brief recess and return to the dais at 8:35 to begin our work session. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Director Chesser?
Oh, I guess I moved it. You
Oh,
asked for a second.
oh, no, I'm sorry. Moved by myself and seconded by Director Chester. Sorry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Please return to the dais at 8:35. My brain's not functioning right now.
Whatever one it is, just let me know.
Oh, I was like so impressed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just really delicious.
It's time, man.
Yep, it is. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. It is time to start our work session on updating the superintendent's evaluation tool. Okay. So, we want to pull out our handouts here. So you'll see, like, these are what we have copies of are the last evaluations from 2024, because we didn't actually complete Dr. Battle's final review because she retired. But these would be the most up-to-date versions. And one is the self-eval that Dr. Battle did on herself, and the other one is the evaluation that gets sent to the board members to fill out on Dr. Battle. So the self-eval only gets sent to Dr. Battle, so that's the one that would be sent to Dr. Daniels that she fills out on herself. And then we would get then a copy of that to see, we would see it. And so I believe we had talked about in the past whether or not we were gonna like get that ahead of time. I can't remember.
And I think this is me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't know. This is, yeah, okay. I'm just, yes.
You're
prepping for you.
You're setting us up.
Setting it up. I didn't know. Okay, but yes, it is your. Through the pitch. Yeah, I'm pitching it to everybody. So, but yes, it's Director Alt's. I'm happy to pass the torch because I've been doing,
I know, right? And you're quite right, yes.
I've done this for the last 2 years, so I'm just used to doing it.
You're on autopilot. So basically what we need to do is just review the tools and determine if there are any changes that we need to make. And then we do have in our board planning document that Sarah is going to manage the tool for us. And she'll be responsible for sending it out at the appropriate time, first to Dr. Daniels to do her self-eval. And then once that's complete, that will be sent out to us to review, and then we'll do our evaluation individually. It will be compiled, and then we'll take it from there. So, looking at the redlined superintendent annual evaluation Google form questions, and Dr. Daniels, please, this is as much your conversation as it is ours, because it's your evaluation too. We basically have substituted the name as appropriate. Looking at, now the first question, we have the rating as 1 to 4 throughout both documents. Are we fine with it being 1 to 4? I'm seeing
1 to 4 meaning that ineffective, developing, effective, and highly effective?
as opposed to 1 to 5, where you can have a middle.
Well, I think there's it's, here.
That was the one thing that called, that I just, you can have 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you have 4, then you're on, right? And I just wanted to, that's the first thing to think about. Setting aside all the other verbiage, because that's probably the most challenging part of the whole thing.
It's kind of nice to not have the 5 when you don't have a middle. That's kind of just a cop-out or default too.
So 3 would be like meets expectations.
Yes.
And then like, now you are a little bit above expectations, and then, boy, you're stellar. You need a 5, right? I'm kind of indifferent.
I kind of like the idea of having the 4 because, I don't know, it gives the incentive. I gotta at least meet that effective to then highly effective versus, well, I can just kind of escape. Not that Dr. Daniels ever would, but it kind of sets that expectation that they expect me to be effective. Then I'm going to be effective, you know?
yeah.
I like that.
I expect to be effective. So I'm hearing 4, 4,
Yeah,
4.
okay, 4.
Keep it at 4. All right, we'll keep it at 4. And then the first one is essential duties and responsibilities. I'm not going to read all the verbiage. I'm going to let you guys do that and let me know if there are any changes. And this is coming,
Those are kind of like the MSBA themes.
MSBA and also some contractual
Themes.
definitions, yeah.
And then the new redlining is indicative of the goals that Dr. Daniels set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there, should there be more than just a statement of serve as the chief? Like, what does that look like? What, that's not really an like I show up to my job? Does that make sense for like the person serve as the chief executive officer for the
These
school
come
district?
from MSBA.
No, I think.
I know, but like what does it mean? What are we expecting?
Or what
Like a
what are-
definition?
well,
What does it look like to serve as the chief executive officer for the school district?
So in having to do this evaluation in 917 for Dr. Favor, each one of the ranking goals, you know, or however it's ranked, would be like, oh, you know, evidence of serving as chief executive. So in one, there'd be like a little definition of what one would look like.
Right.
Another little definition of skill sets or how things might come out in performance as to what a 2 would look like, and a 3 and a 4. And for Dr. Favor, it's each one of
rubric.
those.
It's a
It's a rubric, and for each one of those.
It's a descriptor, it's
Yeah.
descriptors for each.
Yeah. Which I actually really appreciated, because, you know, within being on that board, as, you know, I serve on that board, and at the same time, I don't feel as maybe as informed, or, you know, it's a different feel of that board, in terms of understanding how the performance is coming out. So I value that kind of rubric for Dr. Favor that I think I would value for Dr. Daniels too, so.
Would that also come from MSBA though?
I don't know if how that was created. I can inquire.
That would be helpful,
'Cause
because I mean, I think that seems kind of,
Because it was really unique to the
indicator.
evaluation tool. Dr. Daniels?
I thought, I was trying to complete her sentence. Was it related to the eval? I was saying, was it related to the indicator? So indicator 1 being
Yes,
serving as
it was
the-
related, each rubric was related to the indicator specifically, and I think that might, and Dr. Favor may have said, this is what a 1 would look like for me in this position, this might be a 2, this would be a 3. Or it might have been the team that helped create the rubric.
I think MSBA does have like, when I was creating my goals back here, that were here, I think I did see something that MSBA has that has descriptors. I just don't know if they match if these came from MSBA, perhaps they have descriptors with this, and that's something I could look for. And we will be with Barb next week, and so we can, yeah. So I can check into it, and if we don't have it, we can I can ask Barb for it.
Descriptors. I will take notes for Sarah. So same for all the other service educational leader? Yeah, okay. So that is a question. All right. Email. Okay, so this is for the board member. Oh, here we go. Essential duty number 1, serve as chief executive officer. Yeah.
Here are the indicators. Facilitates development of the school district's short and long-term measurable goals and aligns available resources. Is that what you were thinking about, Leslie?
It's like what would classify as a 1 rating versus a 2?
4, yep. If you scroll down, yep. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
On this one, it's here.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Sarah was writing on here, that's what's missing from
Oh,
this
it's
printout.
missing from, okay.
Yeah.
So the 4 has the
So it's
description.
important that I think that's there.
Yeah.
Different from the printout.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Do you not see it in?
It, on the screen, yes, there.
The
On
printout,
it's
there's
missing.
nothing.
Got it. Okay. Yep. I see. Okay.
Except that each one, like when you go down to essential duty number 2, it has the same exact words.
It doesn't seem to be really comprehensive, and
So it's
it
not
doesn't
specific to that
differentiate
goal.
between effective and highly effective, I think, well, as far as what really,
Examples or something.
yeah.
To accomplish goals.
Oh, I wonder if I can find Dr. Beaver.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't this.
When did we do it?
When I look at the superintendent eval resource guide, that Sarah has here in board book, their standards, I have developed goals aligned to these standards, but these standards don't necessarily align to the essential duties and responsibilities. So for example, I see standard 8 here for ethical and inclusive leadership, and ethical and inclusive leadership is also listed as a duty and responsibility, it is a duty and responsibility. All of these things are pertinent. And when you scroll down, I have to keep scrolling to standard, I think it's standard 9. Which is on page, standard 8, that's on page 26 of the superintendent eval resource guide. They have highly effective, developing, ineffective. Do you all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So that matches.
Yes, so you see, that it's specific to that exact element, so that it's not the same boxes for each duty
It
number
was,
1, duty
and
number
it
2.
should be different. Yeah, it was different. Yep. So we'll do that with Barb, and I'll look to see, because I remember that being different when we did it. Don't you, Anna?
Before it went to the Google Doc, you mean?
No, I remember when we completed the evaluation, each element, the 4, 3, 2, and 1, the description for 4 under that element might have been, it was more prescriptive for that particular element. It wasn't just a carbon copy of, yeah.
It was very specific to the, like you said, to the element.
Right, like if it was facilities related, it would mention something related to facilities.
Right, and that, it does have that in the guideline document,
I bet you Scott has it.
so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll figure that out. Okay. So that is something that is to do. So let's look at, well, that is the only printout that we have. Hold on. This is the one that she gave us. Okay. So more to come, I guess. Okay. Work in progress. Will be, I guess, I'll turn it back to you, Chair Werb.
Okay. So we would just apply the same thing then for the self-eval as well, probably? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just wait till we get further information?
Yes, ma'am.
After talking to Barb. Okay. I think we can just move on then to our next item. The final item.
Did our mics go on?
What?
Can't hear your mic anymore.
Oh, no, Hello. It's there.
Yeah, that's all.
Right, the mic's there, we're gonna.
Just turn the
Oh,
mics off. like,
okay.
Up here, but that these will still capture it for the recording. They did that for our policy meeting.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay.
I thought we were going crazy.
The final item on our agenda is a closed session as permitted by Minnesota Statute 13D.03 to discuss labor negotiation strategy. Is there a motion to close the meeting at this time to discuss labor negotiation strategy?
So moved.
Moved by Director Anderson. Second by Director Chester. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion carries unanimously. The time is now 8:50, and we will move to the HR conference room to discuss labor negotiation strategy. We will return to our open meeting immediately following the closed session. However, please note that having no further agenda items after the closed session, we will not be returning to the dais upon completion of the meeting. Thank you, and board members, please make your way to the HR conference room.